Good day. My name is Alan Young, and I'm looking forward to this panel. This panel is about the future of guest room technology. This is produced for HITEC TV in partnership with HFTP and produced by HospitalityNet. Today, we have some amazing talent with us, some experienced individuals that are going to help us figure out what's going on in the guest room. We've had panels previously talking about revenue management systems, property management systems, all of those technologies that surround the booking environment and also the guest upon property. However, now we're going to get into the guest room and figure out what's going on, what's new, and what's innovative. So I'd like to introduce three individuals that are joining us today. First of all, Tammy Estes, who is the Chief Product Officer with Nomadix. Welcome, Tammy.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'd also then like to welcome David Heckaman, who is the VP of Product Development with Cloud5. Welcome, David.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
And then last but not least, Trevor Dowswell, CTO of Hotel Internet Services. Thanks so much for joining us, Trevor.
Thank you, Alan.
All right. So before we get into the questions, one of the coolest things that ever happened to me when I stayed at a hotel, and this either shows you that my expectations are very low or it was just cool, is the fact that I was staying at the Peabody Hotel in Orlando. And as a middle-aged gentleman, I got up a few times in the middle of the night. But the coolest thing was the fact that every time I got up and my feet hit the floor, there was lighting around the bed that would turn on and show my way to the washroom. And I thought, oh my God, why hasn't anybody thought about this yet? It's not technology. Well, I guess it is, but it was like an aha moment from my perspective being a guest. So, somebody must have thought about that over and over and over again and said, this is something we need to do for the industry. We've gone through an unprecedented 18 months, depending upon where you live. During that time, companies have been looking at their product offering, their development roadmap, all of these different things. What has your company been doing related to, if you did have downtime, making sure that you were ready for the resurgence of the guest? Tammy, let's start off with you, if that works.
Sure. At the end of the day, it's really about the people in our community. As you said, these have been really challenging and stressful times. And so we've put a lot of focus in supporting our team and our company, our partners, and our industry. In regards to growth, we've actually taken this opportunity to really focus on our R&D and processes, professional development, and so that we'll be really well positioned to as the industry emerges from this pandemic.
But I think your boss, Ted Helvey, is also pretty entrenched in helping people in general, right? Not just within the hotel industry, but also the public. Yes. And did you do a lot of that during the past 24 months as a company?
We've really been sort of looking out around on how we can support people, making sure reaching out to people, hey, how are you doing? Oftentimes when people come under a lot of stress, they actually pull back in. And then having a very remote team has actually made that a little bit more challenging because people aren't coming into the office. So you don't sort of see that personal interaction. So we've done a lot of work around how we handle our video meetings, how do we reach out to both our employees, our partners, our community. So yes, that's been from very early on when we realized that we were going to be working remotely. That's been a key approach. Just really seeing people not as employees or just a customer or just a partner, but as people who really need to be supported through this.
Right. So Tammy, why don't you give everybody a bit of a background of yourself and the company as well?
Sure.
And thank you for answering that first question blitz.
Yeah, so as you said, I'm Tammy Estes. I'm Chief Product Officer at Nomadix. I've spent nearly all of my career working with technology companies based in Silicon Valley. In the last few years, focused on hospitality products. As you know, Nomadix is the provider of one of the trusted gateways in the hospitality industry. And we've spent the last few years launching additional guest-facing technologies such as Passpoint, mobile applications, a casting product, PBX products. And we've actually launched our newest gateway that packs a really big punch at a great price just last month. So we've continued our efforts during the last few months. And we're going to be showcasing all our products at our interactive booth at HITEC 3611. And it's great to be here. We're really excited to be at HITEC and help reboot the hospitality industry.
That's awesome. David, welcome.
Good to be here.
And so if you wouldn't mind answering that question as well, what has Cloud5 been up to during this? And I hate to say a down period because I think there are companies that were actually rather happy about, how business was going for them within the technology space.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cloud5 is definitely one of those that was able to adapt well to the pandemic. I mean, I think we we dug down deep. We worked well with our partner hotel, companies to try to adapt to them, to their needs, and to service them at a high level when a lot of their staff, were being furloughed, or whether to be able to, either obviously reduce our support with them. But we actually have a large contact center business, and so we've actually, really dug into that and explored those opportunities with our customer base to be able to kind of think outside the box on how we can service those hotels when their staff has been diminished, and still service their guests as they come back. And before the hotels are able to completely ramp up their service levels again, we've been able to fill that void.
That's awesome. And could you tell us a bit about yourself and more about Cloud5?
Yeah, well, my story is a little bit different. I'm actually fairly new at Cloud5. I've been consulting to them for about a year or so. And there was the previous product person had just recently left and was able to step in. But my last 20 years have been with a luxury hotel brand called Mandarin Oriental, if you've ever heard of it. And
yeah, I have.
so we might have had the same lights that shown around your bed at some point in one of your stays. But so I'm able to bring that kind of luxury, high tech, high touch mindset and some of the things we've done, and try to explore that and be able to deliver it to some of Cloud5's customer base.
That's awesome. And actually I've worked with Cloud5 many years ago in a capacity, and it's great to see it grow, and it's awesome that they bring people in from the industry who've kind of been in the trenches, right? I think that's super. Trevor, over to you for the question about what you've been up to in the last 24 months.
Yeah.
Kind of broad.
It's been exciting. Sure,
right.
sure. So we spent a lot of time on contactless solutions, meaning using devices such, the guest device, to be more interactive with the room, and predominantly with our entertainment products, Beyond TV and GuestCast. So how does the guest fully control the TV without having to touch the remote, even if there's not a set-top box in the room and such? So lots of time has been spent on that to help kind of, provide perhaps more ease of mind to people, coming back into hotels and all that, just to whatever we can to assist in the, the transition from back into full normalcy that we all hope to see here. So we also did some other things, some facelifts, all sorts of different product lines, to kind of make them as best as we can, and to kind of launch into, this next phase of society, with as big of a help as possible to everybody and all the clients. And, organize back end, streamline things, and as well as gotten more into the IoT space. So kind of been where we've been focusing our time in our less busy period.
And tell us a little bit about yourself and HIS, or I don't know if you're allowed, if that's an acronym that you use, or
Well,
whether it's
we
the
use
full name.
internally all day long, so I'm supposing it's okay to use it
Okay.
externally as well.
Well, there is no HIS around anymore. I actually used to work for that company, so I know that it's
there
not
you go.
around. So.
Sure, yeah. So I'm, as you mentioned, Chief Technology Officer. I've been with the company for 11 years now, of which I've been the CTO for about half of that. I myself have a computer science background, specifically focused on networking, but I also do Ruby development and some creative directing, designing, writing, etc. And Hotel Internet Services is, started off actually as a kiosk company back in the early 2000s, and then when Wi-Fi came up, as a booming topic, branched into that and have continued to just kind of expand the product line. So even though we're called Hotel Internet Services, we also operate in a number of other verticals, and we also not only do Wi-Fi and wired networks, but in-room entertainment products. And yeah, we're active here in North America, a little bit of South America, Australia, and some of Europe. So,
Oh, very good. Cool.
Yeah.
So one of the things, we're in the middle of COVID. I would love to say that we're at the end of it. And I think there are regions that are getting close to it. But guest safety is incredibly important, not only from a hygienic perspective, but also from a physical perspective. And I as people are in their rooms more often because maybe restaurants are closed or unavailable, and who knows what may go on in a hotel. I know that people's senses are a little frayed lately. You see that with people on airlines and such. Are you doing things to incorporate that level, or at least some kind of security for the guests in the hotel room via a device or whatever you may be doing? David, is this something that's on your radar?
Well, so I mean, Cloud5 is a technology enabler company. So we, obviously from a networking standpoint, we want to build and support and manage, very robust networks that will allow any technology to run across them. But as obviously everybody's kind of talking about IoT and what that means, and it means different things to different people, and hospitality typically hasn't been a leader in this space. I mean, there's still a lot of providers that provide IoT type devices and solutions, but they're not, more or less the ubiquitous IoT world. But that probably will change moving forward. Just a real quick story. Back in my previous role at Mandarin, we opened a property in Las Vegas, and that safety and security was paramount. And we did things back, now almost 10 years ago, where if you open the door, that would tell you that the door was ajar on top of your TV system. And it was really that ability to merge multiple platforms, not just high-speed internet and not just a door lock, but actually take the messaging from one system and more or less make it guest-centric by putting it on top of the TV. And just simple little things like that provided, good safety, just like your lights around your bed gave you a comfort feeling that you knew you could make it from point A to point B in the pitch black. That being able to tell you that your room's secure, your room's clean, whatever, those type of fairly simple solutions, just be able to bring things together so that the guest, is able to, make decisions on their own without having to, reach out to a bunch of people. I think those type of things is really where, obviously from Cloud5, it's trying to be that partner that can help enable it, more of an enabler. But we're in working with others like Nomadix and some of our current providers to help do that.
Yeah, makes great sense. Tammy, how about you?
Yeah, we see a great future for contactless technology. Some of the examples that Trevor gave, being able to control the TV either via a mobile application or via voice, be able to control lights, the temperature in your room, mobile keys so that you don't need to go to the front desk and check in. Even things like some of the things like David mentioned about being able to integrate guest requests and have them go directly into a system that then can deliver towels or toothpaste or whatever ever to the guest room, and really minimize that both demand on staff to sort of handle these types of things, as well as minimize the contact that guests are required to have for their stay. And I think that, things like also not being able to provide information about a property without having to sort of thumb through shared surfaces like in-room compendium. So we really believe that both for continuing to provide guest experiences that decrease the concern guests have about their safety and help stretch staff resources, contactless technology is going to play a really big role.
Yeah, I think it really is. And, even to the point that you made, David, I think it's, there's going to be a time where on my mobile device, and I'm not physically on property, that I'll be able to see if somebody's entered my room, right? It's whether it's housekeeping or whatever. I should be able to be notified that as a guest. If there's somebody in my room who should not be there, obviously I should be notified of that as well. We have these, and my apologies for the people that sell this stuff, but we have these safes that virtually nobody uses in these hotel rooms. Some people do use them. My wife uses them, but if you actually had visibility to what's going on in your room, and we can get that via a mobile device, then maybe that goes away. Maybe your really important documents, you use the front desk or some kind of system behind there, but knowing who's in your room when you're not there, I think is a bit of the future as well. Trevor, what about what you're doing with hotel internet services? Is there a safety and security aspect to your company's future?
Yeah, I mean, both what David and Tammy mentioned are all valid points and all things that I think we all have our attention on. What you're talking about, I think, is far more realistic now than ever for adoption and all that, and for implementation. People have gone back and forth with app fatigue, and I don't want to stay at 60 different hotels and have all these apps and all that. But we're all getting a lot smarter with how to deal with this stuff, and I think that we're right along there. The big item I have attention on and have for a long time, but it's just absolutely exploded recently. And this isn't necessarily physical safety, but it's really, it's definitely at the security topic is, everyone's been okay with these unencrypted public networks for a long time. And, the hacking industry is I think it's in the hundreds of billions of dollars at this point. And, I feel like as public network providers, the dynamic PSK and personal PSK technologies have really started to mature to the point where I think we really need to push the industry into adopting these more and more. There's been a lot of pushback. It's like, well, we don't want to make it any more complicated for the guests to get online, but I don't know about you guys, but the number of phishing and smishing and every type of, I get probably about 10 fake texts at least a week, of like, your order's ready to pick up, click here. And it's like, I never ordered anything from Walmart, or, your account's insecure or whatever it is. Or, I had one a fake email from my CTO asking for my cell phone number right away, and he needs to contact me. You get all this stuff. And I think, whatever we can do to lock down every avenue of access that these people have. A lot of it's not sitting in a hotel room or a hotel, network and stealing people's data, but it is just another open door. And as all the other doors close, people are going to start doing whatever they can to get data. So.
Right. Agreed 100%. And our own personal data, irrespective of where we are and what type of that data it is, it's the same thing in a Facebook feed. What's your favorite color? Oh, what was the last 3 numbers of your phone when you were 13 years old, right? It's like, give us a break.
That's the name of your first pet.
That's right. That's one of my favorites. So we've gone, you're putting in networks, you're putting in casting televisions, you have in-room devices, you've got a number of different things. But one thing that our industry is definitely getting hit with is a lack of resources. Whether our pay is too bad, and that's an easy one to fix, pay them more, or whether it's just the fact that people have found a different career, or they've decided that they want to do something different not even within, any kind of career path. I heard about a guy that just bought a VW Bug or one of those campers and just went off, and that's what he's going to do. So how do you think, all of these things moving together from, a lack of resources, how is that impacting your own business, and how is that impacting your clients' businesses, the hotels? And finally, what's technology going to do in order to try to help fix the situation? Let's start off with you, Trevor.
All right. Well, fortunately, internally, we haven't suffered from a huge lack of resources. We were able to keep everyone. We didn't have to furlough or anything. So we're very grateful to be in that position. Definitely experience with our clients, and I've experienced with my own travel anywhere I've gone in the past year and a half. It's been really heartbreaking to see the states of some of these hotels, the emotional states of the staff at the front desk and all that. My thanks and all that go out to the people who did stay and all that. I think that we really need to up the mobile check-in, the personal device key access, and leverage some of these habits that people have gotten into through COVID with QR scans and online ordering, online kind of everything, online interactions. You can even implement chat bots and such like that for simple questions. Anything we can do to kind of ease the strain, anything that has like a duplicity factor to it, where you've answered the same question 20 times that day and it's eaten up 2 hours of employee time. Anything like that we can minimize. There's so many easy technological solutions. Obviously, there's spends involved, so it's a matter of leveraging what's the quickest, biggest bang for the buck kind of thing. So, but I think that's kind of, we're going to have to really help people adopt these technologies really fast. So,
Tammy, what's your take on that? What is Nomadix looking at in order to automate some of the processes that maybe there just aren't people around to supply those services?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely hearing, as the various regions begin to emerge from the pandemic, that the staff shortages are something that are really impacting properties, and it's honestly a bit of a double whammy, because at the same time you have guests that are venturing out to travel for the first time, and it's so critical to provide a great guest experience, but you're faced with staff shortages. So, we're really looking some of the same contact technologies that address some of the guest safety concerns are the same types of things that can automate guest requests so that they go directly into a system. The mobile key that Trevor mentioned, I think, is key, so that not everybody has to stand in line to check into their room or, call the front desk. What are the hours for the pool, for example? And I also think it's an interesting time around mobile apps. I think historically, the value of mobile apps has been very much weighted towards the property and the brand, but there hasn't been a lot of value provided to the guest. And so I think that's really impacted adoption. I think that now, with all these safety additions and information additions, that I do think we're at a place where adoption of a mobile app can become much likely, because it is providing these capabilities like mobile key, like guest information, the QR codes, so that to order and things like that. So
kind of going on to that, I think it's really important to see the fact that we have multiple things that we can do in order to kind of expedite the guest and make sure that they're getting what they want. And one of those is casting. Casting televisions are the thing of the norm. I have one beside me, but it's not a cast. It's got an Amazon Fire stuck in the side of it. I have a smart TV upstairs. I have a stupid TV downstairs. And as we go through these things, what I find most difficult about my night, if I'm not working, is trying to find out what I want to watch. Whether it's on Netflix or Apple TV, and the list goes on and on. Do you see the same kind of adoption level of streaming services in room as you do in your own home?
Absolutely. We, guests have binged Hulu and Netflix for several months now. And as they travel, they want access to these this same content in their hotel room. And casting is actually becoming one of the factors that when guests make decisions on where they stay, they is casting available. And there's also important parts about security piece. Do I have to enter my Netflix username and password on the TV and trust that that gets cleared? Or can I, just stream from my mobile device? And we're seeing a lot of demand from, I don't want to share my username and password on a public device. I just want to stream from my own device, my own content. I don't have to share account information.
Makes sense. David, how does that impact your world when everybody wants to be streaming everything and nobody wants to watch, well, I was going to say Tom Brokaw, but he's not on the news anymore. Yeah, boy, I'm dating myself. Lester Holt. Nobody wants Lester Holt on the news.
Well, you might have seen that I dropped off there for a second. I'm actually staying in a hotel at the moment, so obviously having good Wi-Fi is critical. So I won't mention the brand or the name or the room number or anything, but so that is a critical element, and that's what really Cloud5's specialty is, to make sure that we provide I don't want to use the word world class, but provide the top tier and provide consultative services to our customers that that they need to stay ahead of the game, and I think that just like at home, people are spending more time in front of their screen and doing Zoom and all these things that are fairly new. They used to go to your office and you knew your office had great networks and whatever, but now you really have to take that experience to with you to either home or now as you travel. You're still not going to probably have the same work experience. You're going to be doing more like we are, doing Zoom calls or conference calls via your room. Your entertainment choices have changed. Meeting spaces have changed dramatically and are probably going to not go back to the way that they were 100%. The hybrid model will probably be around for quite a long time. Mm-hmm. Some of it because now people know how to get together remotely. And so you'll probably see a lot more of senior leadership going on site and the next level being connected remotely so that the cost of travel will go down and all those things affect the industry in different ways. But what Cloud5 and the industry need to do is make sure that those things work without a doubt, because what used to be internet, if it was mediocre, you could still survive. But I think in this new world, these services have to work, and you'll be called out on it at a greater rate, just because it'll either work or won't, and you'll, especially in the world of social media, you'll know it fairly quickly that property is not providing the level they need to be.
Says David as he's tweeting out his room number in the hotel. Trevor, you offer high-speed internet services and all that, but you do casting as well. Are you seeing that kind of uptick of interest?
Yeah, I mean, I just pulled this up while you're talking there to give you actual real numbers. But we had a hotel in New York recently reopened, and right now they have 275 registered guests, and so far this month they have 1,796 hours of casting done. So that's some pretty big amount of hours. I don't know what that translates into days, but we've only got 15 days into the month, and so the amount of casting being done in this hotel is just phenomenal. So and we're seeing that. I mean, that's just one example, but we're definitely seeing that. Tammy already touched upon it. It's people they've been probably adding to their streaming platform, medley that they have at home. Now you've got Peacock if you want to watch this. You've got Paramount. You've got obviously Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, Amazon. and this is the way people are watching TV. I mean, cord cutting has never been more real, I think, than through the pandemic. It's escalated it tremendously to the point where we have hotels in various regions that are themselves cord cutting, and they just want casting. So
wow.
I haven't really seen a whole lot of that in the U.S. yet, but I'm sure it's coming. I mean, we've been asking for people to go free to air only with some casting, just basic channels. So we'll see where it goes. I mean, it's definitely. I think you mentioned it too, Alan, at the beginning. I mean, it is the wave of the future. It's the wave of the present.
Right.
And it's just going to get larger. It's just going to sweep across everything. So.
Yeah, and I started my career off in the hotel industry, like you, David, and I remember, the days of remotes, and doesn't matter whether there's a pandemic or not, those things are nasty. And so, there's no good way to clean a remote. And so from that perspective, technology enabled us to do this with casting, but probably previously we could have figured out a different way to do it. But definitely it's moving forward. Let me ask you, David, I'm going to start with you with this one. Hotels are in the middle of being bombarded by companies that are introducing themselves, trying to sell something, looking at things, trying to get their attention. And it's problematic to make a decision about almost everything these days because nobody really knows what's going to look like 2 weeks from now, let alone a year from now. But when you're advising a hotel company on what they need to be doing with infrastructure and all those kind of things, what are the things that they're looking for help in the most?
Oh, well, I think that being a consultative service is a key aspect. Not just going out there and being an order taker. Most brands, especially the larger brands, have standards, but every hotel is different physically, and you have different ownerships, and you have different, people have their own preference, and sometimes that even bumps up against the brands, so being able to sort through all that and provide not just the initial one-time build, but over the period of that life cycle of your engagement with that one hotel, is be able to, guide them along the way and guide them in where the world's changing to. So obviously guiding them around the hybrid meeting space and how important it is, maybe providing them connections to, solutions that you don't even sell, but that you support, your infrastructure or your plan supports it, but just being able to, be a resource is really, I think, hotels, customers, brands, honor that relationship. And it is a relationship over, obviously you're getting paid for it, but, to be able to be consultative I think is critical.
Yeah, 100%. Trevor, how do you guide your prospects and your current clients on their decision-making process on what they need to be doing next, and how do they prioritize?
Sure. I always go with, what's functional over flash. You need to kind of have the basics really down. It's best to future-proof your infrastructure, your network infrastructure, whenever you possibly can during a retrofit, or obviously in a new build, you want to do it right the first time. It's those 30, 40-year-old phone cables, just sometimes can't cut it anymore. And obviously good Wi-Fi, right? So have it designed properly. Anyone here on this call, I know these companies, they're all doing it right. Use a professional, get the networking down, because everything is going to be relying on the network. And it's only going to do so. So, kind of step one, and then whatever your next best, ROI, whether it be via, intangibles or actually direct, what's going to save you the most and the best, whether it be time or money or what have you, and make your life easier, not just for the client, but for the guest. How do you, so that could be all sorts of different things. Like it could be upgrading your locks or your check-in ability or whatever it is, entertainment, obviously, because we do that. You know, if you've got a stale entertainment system, you know, get that upgraded. So whatever's going to be the, you know, the most logical path of improvement, but try not to build on top of a unstable base, because that just always ends bad.
And you, Tammy, what are your thoughts on this?
You know, sort of along with David's comments, having a really strong MSP partner is really critical, both to support your current technology, but also somebody that can advise you as all of these time-saving technologies that improve the guest experience are coming up and are needed at this time. I also think, I mean, to Trevor's point, making sure the ROI is there. Does this improve my guest satisfaction? Does this decrease staff costs? Is this, you know, will your guests use it? Does it provide new revenue streams? And sort of asking yourself all of those questions when making technology decisions.
Right. Very, very true. I promised all of you that I wouldn't throw you a curveball, but I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball, but I know it's going to be something that you can answer. No matter, and I'm pretty firm about my stance on this. I believe that hotel technology providers are in the relationship business, just because of our clients, and we need to work together and obviously foster great relationships with our clients. And we've been through a very, very tough period. I know myself with COVID, it's been challenging. Haven't traveled. I used to travel a lot. Not being able to see family, etc., has been challenging. Being in Canada, because we're pretty restrictive on what we can or cannot do up here, has been really challenging. So Trevor, let me start with you. From a personal level, how has COVID affected you and the people that are close around you?
Well, I am also Canadian. I didn't divulge that at the beginning, but you know, we're opening our hearts here. So, so all of my family, outside of a couple close, you know, relatives in my immediate family, are all in Canada. And you know, we've had a number of people, thankfully not via COVID, but you know, just it was their time, you know, pass away, and I've had to attend services, you know, online, which I'm really, really grateful that people have made that available. You know, so it is very rough to not see family and to not be able to just hop up to Canada when I want and to be with people and support them. You know, I have kids, so, you know, the school closures was a very, very hard hit for us at the very beginning. And that made every aspect of life challenging, not only for myself and my wife, who both, you know, we work, as well as for my children, who, you know, it was very rough on them. So, you know, it's been an interesting road. I feel like it's given us all the opportunity to kind of wake up from our sleepy routines that we were doing every day and kind of look at what's important in life, what's important with, like you mentioned earlier, the relationships in life, and the relationships with the people around us. And so, you know, there's obviously growth. Every time of turmoil promotes change and expansion at the end of it. It might be rough to go through, but, you know, if it's too stagnant, no one really has any, you know, desire to change anything. So
yeah, very important. David, how's it affected you personally, COVID and everything else that surrounds it?
I mean, I live in South Carolina, so it's probably one of the, you know, and actually fairly rural, so it hasn't, you know, been as restrictive as some other parts in the country. My son was actually, last year went to a private school and he was the first kid in his school to get COVID, and he set up all the protocols. So that was you know, kind of, and it was a smaller school, so it pretty much, even though they didn't announce his name, everybody knew it, and it was kind of an interesting dilemma to, like, you know, to be the social pariah for a little bit, because kids had to stay home because your son had COVID and came within contact. But it's, you know, I think that to me, actually, when now I've just started to travel more often, you know, and obviously just normal life, eating out, it kind of gives me that, and spending time in my career in the hospitality space really, pulls on the heartstrings to actually see these people that are actually, out there serving customers, whether it's in a restaurant or the front desk of a hotel, and having to, wear their mask to protect themselves, but a lot of times it's because of corporate mandate or whatever, and it really is a long. Think about standing at a front desk for 8-hour shift and having to wear the mask and behind a glass plastic shield and all that. It is it's a difficult place to be, and I'm hoping that things start to come down here shortly, and as we go into next year, that at least the interaction part of life comes back, because that's the part I think that everybody misses. Whether just being that, I like to go to Home Depot or Lowe's, and a lot of times, I'll bump into somebody, and when you look at them, you can't tell whether they're pissed or whether, you just give somebody a smile. You can't see the smile. I didn't, and I think that's the part that just the normal human interaction of facial expressions and stuff is
right.
Something that's
How about you?
We don't lose.
Yeah, no kidding. How about you, Tammy?
I think one of the really hard parts for me is that my parents live in Maine and are getting on in years. My husband's dad lives in Alaska, and not feeling that we could safely visit them without sort of, we would have to travel until the vaccines were out there. And I think for me that, and then my brother had a new baby last December, and sort of watching them raise an infant in, effectively isolation, because it's not like you could feel like you could go and say, here's my child. And so I think that isolation from family and separation from family has been one of the really hard things for me. But similarly, the grit and the perseverance that I've seen, across, from friends who've had to deal with things much harder than me, coworkers who have faced challenges. I mean, I think that's been really heartening to see the good things that have come out of this terrible situation.
Yeah, I believe 100%. I've seen a lot of good things myself as well. People helping people, and it's awesome. And hopefully we'll see more and more of that as this wave subsides. So we're getting close to the end, and thank you so much for just talking about that. I think it's important. And as I said, when people see you in the hallway of HITEC, hopefully they'll have a little bit better handle on who you are rather than just the company you front. And I think that's important in this day and age. So for each of you, what is the coolest, most innovative, neatest thing that you're going to be talking about or showing at HITEC? Trevor, I'm going to start with you.
Gosh, well, definitely contactless stuff for sure. Yep. So that's, like I mentioned earlier, it's a big part of what we've been focusing on. So, full control of the television, and we've had it with voice, so that's not necessarily innovative. We've had that for a number of years now, but being able to just quickly scan a QR code and have full control of the TV, which, you could walk down, to a restaurant and still control the TV. Not that has any use for anybody, but if you really want to freak somebody out, you can do that. So that's kind of what we're a big highlight.
I can see that if you leave the kids in the hotel room and they're old enough to stay there by themselves and they're watching. No, you're not. No, you're not. Yeah. You're watching this. That'd be funny. David, how about yourself and Cloud5?
Well, I'd love to say it was the great, some phenomenal technology, laser beams or something, but I think the thing that we're actually doing the most and getting the most interest and adoption is actually more of providing, professional managed services. As the brands, have, especially the larger brands, have, dropped a bunch of their internal teams and haven't really brought them all back, and it may be a long, long time, or they're just doing more with less at the property level, is providing that type of, project management, professional services, support services, not just running great networks, which we've done for years, but being able to take some of that other burden off of the brands or or regional teams, et cetera, of these companies, and take some of that burden on our shoulders and run as more or less an outlet of their organization and run projects or deliver the needs to the. And I think that is been really long overdue in the industry, but COVID kind of brought it to the surface. And so I'm excited. I think that for us is probably one of the most exciting opportunities that we see, and we're getting a lot of interest and a lot of traction in that area.
Yeah, and that is really interesting, because that takes the vision of a technology provider from vendor, which we're usually saddled with that term, to true partner, right? And
Yep.
If you can get to that through consultative services, through the delivery of other services, et cetera, then you've made it. You're going to be with them for a long time, and it's hard to see that happening, but when it does, it's awesome. I couldn't agree with you more. Tammy, what's Nomadix going to be bringing to the event?
Well, in addition to our contacts list technologies and voice technologies and our casting solution, we're really excited to introduce our EG1000, our new gateway. It's powerful, priced such that we think there'll be a lot of properties that will find this a great solution for them. It brings all the features and the security and the reliability of Nomadix gateways to a price point that I think will work really well for a lot of people.
That's great. I have one last question, if you hope you don't mind. We heard 20 years ago that travel agents were going to be dead because of the online travel agencies, right? That's over. We don't need travel agents anymore. Now they're still around, and actually, I think somebody else is pontificating lately that's going to happen. With 5G, and this might be my lack of knowledge, but with 5G and the adoption of 5G or the implementation of 5G, do you ever see that wiping out Wi-Fi, David?
No, I mean, I think if the standards are actually seeing those two becoming way more harmonious. The seamless transition from the outside world to the inside world, and the 5G, Wi-Fi 6 and beyond really bring those two together. So the carriers are more or less betting that they're going to be able to utilize the inside world and connect the two together, but using the hotel's infrastructure or the personal infrastructure to kind of bridge that gap. And that's where the standards are pointing to, and the world's evolving to. I would say it's taken longer than we kind of all thought. I mean, some of the HT&G and other groups have been saying this for a long time, that it's coming. And it is, but it takes a fine ballet between the handset manufacturers and the technologies, and obviously the infrastructures have to evolve at the same time. And I think that's the goal, is to kind of get the industry, to at least stay in step and not lag behind when it does come.
Right. Do either one of you, Tammy or Trevor, have any thoughts on this, or am I just completely at the lunch?
No, I think David's right. There's a place sort of for each one of these technologies, in that they actually complement each other as opposed to compete in most instances. And then you have things like Passpoint, which really is beginning to enable a seamless transition from your mobile experience outside the hotel to a secure from the device to the internet connection once you're inside the hotel. So I think that there's a lot of really interesting things happening that will improve the guest experience and ride sort of on top of these technologies.
Trevor?
Yeah, and if you look at the number of technological devices that are being installed in hotels, and this is really to David's point here too, do you really want 300 door locks, your thermostat controls, your drapes, your Chromecast, which I don't even know how you get that to work, all connecting via cellular instead of Wi-Fi? I mean, does anyone want that? Do the carriers want that? No. They want to rely on that local infrastructure to basically be an extension of the internet they're bringing to the property. So I can't see unless everything goes cloud, and if people are okay relinquishing that control and the possible revenue streams that you can have on a privately owned network, I just don't see it blowing Wi-Fi away.
Perfect. Well, thank you so very much, David Heckaman from Cloud5, Tammy Estes from Nomadix, and Trevor Dowswell from Hotel Internet Services. This has been time incredibly well spent, and I appreciate you making the time to speak with us and the audience at HITEC.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Alan.
Alan.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.